What I'm giving you here, these are some of the simple but very, very powerful things that I do with myself, I do with my family, I do with my employees, I do with my team, I do with my coaching clients. So the good part is I'm giving you the tools and solutions to become world-class CISO. The only question you have to decide is, what are you going to do? Welcome to Life of a CISO. I'm Dr. Eric Cole, your host, and we'll be taking you on a journey each week on what it takes to be a CISO and what are solutions that you can implement today if you are currently a Chief Information Security Officer or if you want to be one in the future. This is Life of a CISO. Welcome, welcome, welcome to this week's edition of Life of a CISO with yours truly, Dr. Eric Cole. It is always a pleasure, and thank you for joining me. And we spend about 25, 30 minutes together where we talk about being world class. Now, last episode, I inadvertently introduced something that I didn't know was gonna sort of take off, where I sang a song and I said, okay, name the group, right? Name the group from the 80s. And that seemed to get really popular. People are like, wow, that's pretty cool. So here we go. That's going to be one of our new themes until you tell me to stop. So here's today's theme music for this Life of a CISO. You ready? Just call me angel of morning, baby. And by the way, once again, I love singing. I'm a musician. I'm a drummer. That probably explains a lot of the craziness, right, from a drumming perspective. But I also am aware that I'm not the best singer. So if you're not sure what that song is, just listen to the beginning of Deadpool, right? It's the same song, and they play it in the beginning of that movie. So here you go. Here's your exercise. Post below. Who is the author or the singer of that song? And I'll actually, this one I know the title, right? I think it's Angel of Morning, right? So who is the singer? And this one I actually know who the singer is, but I'm not going to tell you. So post below, who is the singer of Just Call Me Angel of Morning? And if you want bonus points, what year was it released, right? So, but now you can't use Google to cheat, right? You got to do it from memory and AFA, right? So first of all, you didn't know coming to a Life of a CISO, if this is your first time joining us, that we're going to have fun, right? Being a world-class CISO means you enjoy every moment of what you're doing, right? Being honest with you, it's a Saturday morning. I just finished up the gym. And I was talking to some of the buddies. They're like, oh, so what are you doing today? And I'm like, oh, it's awesome. I'm going to swing by the office. I'm going to record some episodes of Life of a CISO. I'm going to do, and they're like, you're working today? I'm like, no, you didn't hear what I said. I get to record. I get to have the privilege and honor of doing what I love. That's not work, right? That's fun, right? To me, this is excitement. So it's all about enjoying what you're doing. So let's actually start there. Let's go a little deep. Are you truly enjoying what you do for a living? I don't like the word work. I don't like the word job, but that seems to be the socially acceptable way to describe it. So for what you're doing, 8 to 5. Or 7 to 6, or whatever hours you work. But whatever you're doing for most of your time, other than sleeping, that traditional people would call a work or a job. Just be honest. Do you love what you're doing? Do you enjoy it? When you wake up in the morning, are you like, yeah, here we go, right? And you start singing Angel of Morning. Oh, sorry, I didn't tell you who sang it. So you start singing Angel of Morning, right? And you start being in a great mood. Is that a reality? Or is it, right? And you start singing, it's just another manic Monday. Actually, that'll be next week's song. I won't tell you who sings that one either, right? But you get what I'm saying. Do you really enjoy what you're doing? Do you really love it? Do you feel like you're making a difference in the world? And the reason I bring that up is because average people don't, and world-class people do. So if you want to be an average CISO, then it's a job. You do it. It's okay. It pays the bills. You don't love it, but there's worse things you could be doing, right? That's average. That's how average CISOs speak. But if you want to be world-class CISOs love what they do. They view themselves as changing the world, of making a difference, of building a legacy. Notice the difference here. And once again, I don't want you to give me the correct answer. I want you to give yourself the real answer. Are you really enjoying what you're doing? And if you are, great. What would make it even more enjoyable? What are 3 things that if they happened would make your job even more enjoyable? And if you're honest with yourself and you're like, no, I really don't love my job, I really don't like it, then I want you to go down and same thing. What are 3 things that if they happened or occurred would start switching you to loving your job? So either category you're in, I want you to identify 3 things that would either make your job even better or switch it from a job to a mission to a purpose. And write down those 3 things. What if now that becomes your primary focus? Those 3 things over the next, let's give yourself 6 months. Over the next 6 months, that is your focus. Now, you still show up to work. You still do all the things you're supposed to. But here's what I want you to do. Every morning when you wake up, I want you to go in. I was going to say before you get dressed, but I'm like, if you're writing down those 3 things when you're naked, that's just weird. So sorry, that's how I think. So you're allowed to get dressed, right? You can get dressed first, right? We'll get to a weird area there. So abort the mission, Eric. We'll move on. But you can get dressed, right? But before you start getting into the day, checking email, text, work, all those things, I want you to write down those 3 things. I want you to write down those 3 things in a book. This is one where I am a firm believer that paper has power. I don't want you to do it on an iPad. I don't want you to do it on a tablet. I want you to do it on Remarkable. I have all those things. They're great. I want you to go and buy a actual book or just get paper and staple it together or loosely. But I want you to get an actual book or journal, and I want you to write down in the morning those 3 things that if they happened would be game changers for you. And then after you write down those 3 things on paper, I want you to spend 5 minutes. 5 minutes, that's it. 5 minutes, that's easy. 5 minutes saying, what are things you can do today to move towards that? Now, just to give you an example, one of the things that many people write down when they do this exercise is they're going to go in and say they want a new job. And hopefully you're more specific. You want a CISO job for a Fortune 50 company. Be as specific as possible with these. Be as specific as possible. So great. What is something you could do today to move you closer to that? You could go in and apply for 5 jobs. Literally, once you're set up on those platforms, right, LinkedIn Recruiter or Indeed or others, it takes 30 seconds to hit apply, apply, apply. So why can't you today apply for 5 CISO positions? Boom. Maybe one of the things you wrote down was to be more proficient in business. Great. So today, why can't you read 1 chapter in Blue Ocean Strategy? Instead of going to lunch with everyone, the same group you always do, or instead of going home and watching TV, or heck, instead of going home, what if you just swing by a park, a library, a coffee shop, and just spend 30 minutes reading? What if you read for 30, 40 minutes, you read 1 chapter in Blue Ocean Strategy. And then what happens is these small little things start making a big difference. Then the second thing I want you to do is before you go to bed, I want you to write down those three things again. There's power in writing and seeing and doing it. So depending on how verbose and the size of your journal you get, I get a normal 8x11 journal. That's 1 page. So I write the date at the top. I write my 3 core 6-month objectives, goals. I write a little paragraph of what can I do today to move closer. And then at the end of the day, I write the 3 goals again. So it typically takes 1 piece of paper. Boom. Do that every single day. Now, my attorneys don't let me guarantee anything, but let me tell you this. And the reason why they don't is because you have to do it. And if you don't, there's no guarantee. But if you actually do that, if you sincerely go in and do that, you identify 3 things that would make your life better or amazing, 3 very specific things. You write them down in the morning. You write down what you can do today to make a difference. And then you go in and write them again at the end of the day. If you do that for 6 months, I would be blown away if your life wasn't different. Like I said, I can't guarantee, but right, it's almost, if you actually do that. Now, the 2 things that throw people. So let me give you the 2 things that throw people off. First, they don't have to be big things. For example, if you have a very, very busy day, if you're super swamped, then your one thing could be simple as go to Amazon and buy Blue Ocean Strategy Kindle book. That, 2 minutes? A minute? Right? But what you're doing is you're training yourself to do something every day. Here's the other thing. Question your day. Because there's a huge difference between being busy and being productive. And I know a lot of people go, Eric, I don't know what kind of clients you work with, and I don't know what kind of people you interact with, but I don't have any free time. I'm going from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m., and I don't have a moment to breathe. I had one person say, I don't have a moment to go to the bathroom, and I'm like, okay, that's just weird at a whole new level. So what? So I actually asked him, I'm like, so what do you do? They're like, what do you mean? I'm like, you said you don't have time to go to the bathroom, so what do you do? Do you knock? They're like, Eric, I meant it fictitiously. And I'm like, no, I'm serious here. You clearly were able to find time, right, to use the bathroom. So the point is, there is time here. Now, if you are in that situation where you are telling me, Eric, I can't do this, then I'm going to give you a slightly different exercise. And the slightly different exercise is this. I want you to track how you use your time. There's apps. It's very easy. It doesn't take time. But I want you to track how you use your time. You're telling me that you cannot take 30 minutes to read a book chapter, that you are literally booked nonstop with the highest priority items from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. If you haven't figured it out yet, I don't believe you. If there was a BS button, I would hit it right now, right? I don't believe you, and you can get mad at me, and that's okay because I love you and I care about you, and that's why we're here. But I want you to really start tracking and using your time. My high-paid coaching clients that claim this, I will actually go in and spend a day with them. And I have never, ever had anybody where I wasn't able to find at least, are you ready for this? Are you sitting down? At least 4 hours or more of complete and total waste of time. Where they said they were busy nonstop from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. And I spent a day with them, and they now exercise, they read, they journal, they're moving towards their goals, they write their goals morning and evening, and they're getting twice as much done as when they were going from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. So hopefully you're not in that category. But if you are, become very aware and write down, because my bet is you are not nearly as productive as you think. And if you understand where you're using your time, there's a lot of wasted time. But that's what I want you to focus on. I want you to force yourself every morning, write down the 3 goals. Every morning, write down what are things you can do to move towards it. They can be 5 minutes. They can be 30 minutes. And at the end of the day, rewrite the goals again. And like I said, it sounds simple. It is simple. It requires discipline. Trust me, it requires discipline. But if you can force yourself to do it, everything changes. What I'm giving you here, these are some of the simple but very, very powerful things that I do with myself, I do with my family, I do with my employees, I do with my team, I do with my coaching clients. So the good part is I'm giving you the tools and solutions to become world-class CISO. The only question you have to decide is, are you going to do it? Are you going to do it or not? At this point, I now want to switch to the second part of this episode, which are characteristics of a world-class CISO. What are the characteristics or personality or habits, whatever you want to call it, that consistently are found in world-class CISOs? And the reason why I want to cover this is one of my tricks to success is this. If you want to accomplish something, there's 2 ways of doing it. One is make all the mistakes yourself. Figure it out on your own. It's going to be long. It's going to be painful. It's going to be bloody, and you might not survive. But that's one option. I don't like that option. The second option is what I like to do is find people that have accomplished what I want and look for patterns and look for habits and look for characteristics and look for traits. And then I start mimicking those characteristics, traits, and habits. And here's the coolest thing. If somebody is doing A, B, and C and getting result D, if you've done your analysis correctly and you do A, B, and C, shouldn't you get D? I know some people, I'm a math and computer science guy, so to me, life is a math problem. If I take 2 plus 3 plus 4 and I get 9, if you take 4 plus 3 plus 2, you will also get 9. So what I'm going to do here is I've studied a lot of successful and unsuccessful CISOs, and I'm going to give you, it was originally supposed to be 5, but I think I came up with 6 characteristics of world-class CISOs. First and foremost, and this is the most important, if you can get this one, everything will change for you. A world-class CISO is focused on growing the business. A world-class CISO, their number one function when they go to meetings is, how can I use cybersecurity as a tool to grow the business? Or to put it another way, how can I use cybersecurity as a business enabler? That's huge, because the problem is the characteristic that I see over and over and over again in unsuccessful CISOs is CISO's primary focus is on reducing risk, not on growing the business. And that's why it's so dangerous if you're a security engineer. Because world-class security engineers focus on reducing risk. World-class CISOs focus on growing the business. And if you don't believe me, let's just look at a scenario. And this is what happens. You have a vice president of sales that wants to roll out a new sales portal that will basically allow self-service for all of your company's offerings. So now instead of somebody having to find your phone number, call up the company, wait 20 minutes for a salesperson to pick up, and go through the sales process of 30 minutes to buy one of your products, they can now go online to your website and within 5 minutes purchase your products. The way most security engineers focus that is, whoa, this is way too big a risk. We're basically going to have all our customer data accessible from the internet, all of our products, all of our services, all of our money. This is going to be access to this. And they basically go, this is way too big a risk. We are not going to be able to do that. That is a security engineer. If that is your mindset, please don't get mad at me, but you will never be a world-class CISO because you're hurting the business. If you want to be a world-class CISO, here's the golden rule. If cybersecurity negatively impacts the business, you're wrong. If cybersecurity impedes the growth of the company, you're wrong. If cybersecurity negatively impacts profitability and revenue, you're wrong. And a lot of people fight with me and argue on that point. And to me, it is the quickest, easiest way to discriminate between world-class CISOs and world-class security engineers. If you are fighting me on this, you are not a world-class CISO. Because a world-class CISO is a business person focused on using cybersecurity to enable the business. So for some of you, that's easy. Some of you, that's hard, but that is the characteristic. If you want to be a world-class CISO, you have to focus on growing the business. When you're in those meetings with that vice president of sales, your thought has to be, how do we make this work? How do we allow this to be done in a balance between functionality and security, but how do we make this work? That has to be your primary focus. If your primary focus is, this is too big a risk, this is not something we should do, this is not something I can get behind, you are not thinking, acting, or behaving like a world-class CISO. You are thinking, acting, or behaving like an average CISO or a world-class security engineer. So first and foremost, you want to be world-class CISO, you have to be business-focused. 2, you have to be able to handle competing priorities and not get stressed out. World-class CISOs love doing many things. They are organized, they are structured, they have a team to support them, and to them, being highly productive is a positive thing. It engages them and energizes them. It doesn't stress them out. If you're one of those folks that balancing multiple high priority balls, running between meetings and doing things stresses you out, and it's something you don't enjoy, might not want to be a CISO, right? Because a chief information security officer is going to have to be very organized and prioritized. If they're prioritized and organized, it becomes energy and fun. If they're not prioritized and organized, it becomes chaos and stress. Average CISOs are stressed out and run a chaotic office. World-class CISOs are organized, structured, and prioritized. Next, they can understand and fluent in multiple languages. They can speak business, they can speak finance, they can speak sales, they can speak marketing, they can speak security. It's one of those folks where you hear those people, I can speak 7 different languages. That's a world-class, except we're not talking French, German, Chinese. What we're talking about here are the languages of business. Is you are very, very fluent in marketing and sales and business and finance. So when you're in front of the appropriate audience, you can quickly identify which language they're speaking, and you can speak their language. If you only speak cybersecurity, if you only speak technical, you're going to have a very difficult time, because you're only going to be able to speak with the engineers, because executives don't speak cybersecurity. Salespeople don't speak cybersecurity. Marketing doesn't speak cybersecurity. And now this is one of the biggest mistakes that I see, is average CISOs believe that other people need to learn to speak your language. I have talked with folks, and I have actually ended coaching contracts with folks where they're like, Eric, I don't believe what you're saying. I just had one where I refunded their entire deposit because they're like, Eric, I'm a world-class cybersecurity professional. If people want to talk to me, they need to learn my language. They need to speak my language. I'm not going to speak their language. And I spent 15 minutes, and it was clear that that was a non-negotiable for them. And I said, listen, great conversation. I'm actually not going to charge you for this call. This one's on me. And we're going to refund your entire money and end the contract. And they were looking at me. I'm like, why? I'm like, because that's a showstopper. If there are key things, there's key characteristics. If you are not willing to speak other languages and you believe that other people need to learn your language, I'm not going to be able to help you, because you will never be world class. Because I will tell you right now, a CEO is never going to speak cybersecurity technical. A marketing person is never going to be. If you want to be successful and you want to communicate with other people, you have to have enough humbleness to realize you need to learn their language, and you need to check your ego at the door. But if you think that you're world-class cybersecurity and everyone has to speak your language, you're not going to be world-class. You have to learn their language. The next big characteristic is they are up to speed on threats and current events and what's happening in cybersecurity and tech. I was working with one person who was a pretty good CISO, but they never checked, monitor, or watch the news. And they would always get in these situations where they'd get a phone call from the CEO or the CFO, and they'd be like, hey, what's going on with Colonial, and could that impact us? The best answer of a world-class CISO is no. What happened with Colonial was they took critical operating systems, industrial control systems, ICS, they directly connected them to the internet, and they weren't patched. They weren't up to speed. We don't have that problem. We have isolation, and I'd be happy to sit down with you, but we are in good shape. That's the best answer. The worst answer is, what is Colonial, and why are you calling me about that? And the same thing happened with SolarWinds. Right? They got a call saying, hey, what's going on with SolarWinds? Could that impact us? And the person was like, oh, SolarWinds is a company. And they're like, no, we're talking about the breach. And the person said, what breach? Right? World-class CISOs are up to speed on cybersecurity news. I'm not a big fan of the news, but I do have services and filtering where I am up to speed on anything that has cybersecurity. Do you realize in Google, and there's also paid services that have different levels of features, where you can go in and put in terms like cybersecurity, cyber breach, cyber incident, cyber compromise, cyber threat, and any story that covers that topic will actually pop up on your screen or your phone. So you're always up to speed and seeing what's going on and what's happening. And then the last two that go together is world-class CISOs. And this one's going to sound a little crazy, but trust me. World-class CISOs can predict the future. World-class CISOs understand the threats, the business, the impact at such a high level that they can predict and see what's going to happen. Now, not at a micro but a macro level. I did not go in and was able to predict that it was Colonial the ransom payment, and others. But I did predict, and I got it within 6 weeks, that there was going to be a major ransomware attack against critical infrastructure. Now, there's a couple of tricks here. If you keep it at a broad enough level and you understand the vulnerabilities and exposures and what's happening with threats, vulnerabilities, and risks, it's pretty easy to be able to predict the future. It's pretty easy to be able to see what's going to happen. But that is one that it takes time, energy, and effort. One of the things I was not very good in the beginning, now after doing it for 30 years, I sometimes get the timing a little off, but I've worked in cybersecurity for 30 years that I'm usually pretty close at predicting what could happen and what could occur at a macro level. So that's something. The other ones you can work on immediately. That one you're going to sort of work on over time. And then the last one I want to finish with is be proactive. Understand the business. Understand what people are going to ask and proactively have that information available to you. If you're in a board meeting with the executives, the worst possible answer you could give if somebody asks you a question about cybersecurity is, I don't know what that is. I have no idea what SolarWinds is. I have no idea what Colonial Pipeline is. That's the worst possible answer. An okay, acceptable answer that's good and you can get away with it is Colonial Pipeline is X, but I'd be happy to do additional research and come back with you with additional details. That's good. I mean, it's okay. You're telling them, you understand a little bit, and you're going to follow up. The best possible answer is it's boom, boom, boom. Here's how it can impact the business and the organization. And oh, by the way, I thought you might ask me about this. So here's a one-page memo I put together of the 3 business mistakes that was made at Company X and what we're doing to minimize or reduce that from happening. Here's a copy. Being as proactive as possible is critical. But remember, I put these in order. Start with being business focused, then focus on being organized, understanding news, understanding the language, and then those last 2 is that predictive and proactive piece. And remember, not going to happen overnight, but if you keep working and focusing on it, you will continue to grow and be a world-class CISO.